On the night of June 12, 1994, Los Angeles was quiet, its upscale neighborhoods settling into the calm of a summer Sunday evening. But in Brentwood, behind the walls of a condominium tucked away on Bundy Drive, a horrific act of violence was about to unfold. One that would not only shatter 2 lives but also ignite a storm of controversy that engulfed the nation. By the early morning hours, 2 people were dead: Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. The brutality of their murders stunned detectives who first arrived on the scene. Nicole had been stabbed multiple times, her throat cut so savagely that it nearly severed her head from her body. Ron, just 25 years old, lay nearby, also stabbed repeatedly in what was clearly a desperate fight for his life. Blood was everywhere, on the walkway, the steps, even on Nicole's dog, who whined and pawed helplessly at neighbors until they followed it back to the grisly scene. This was no ordinary homicide. It was savage, personal, and deliberate. And very quickly, suspicion turned to a man who was not only known to Nicole, but had once been the center of her world: her ex-husband, Orenthal James Simpson. O.J. Simpson was a household name long before that night. A football icon, he had dazzled fans in the 1970s as a record-breaking running back. After retiring, he parlayed his fame into a successful career as a broadcaster and actor. He starred in commercials, appeared in movies, and was admired as one of America's most charismatic sports heroes. To many, O.J. was proof that talent and determination could propel someone to the heights of stardom. But behind that public image was a complicated, darker story. O.J. and Nicole had married in 1985, when she was just 18 years old and working as a waitress in Beverly Hills. Their life together, at least from the outside, seemed glamorous: lavish homes, beautiful children, a lifestyle of wealth and privilege. On June 12th, Nicole had dinner with her family at Mezzaluna, a popular restaurant where Ronald Goldman worked as a waiter. Nicole's mother accidentally left behind a pair of sunglasses. Later that evening, Ron agreed to drop them off at Nicole's condo. Around the same time, O.J. was preparing for a late-night flight to Chicago. A limousine driver arrived at his estate in Brentwood, waiting to take him to the airport. What happened in the gap between 10:15 p.m. and 11 p.m. has been debated for decades. Neighbors reported hearing a dog barking frantically. Some claimed they heard cries or thuds. By midnight, Nicole and Ron were dead. At 12:10 a.m., her body was discovered just outside the entrance to her home. The crime scene told a chilling story. Nicole had been attacked near the steps leading to her door. Ron appeared to have arrived mid-assault and tried to defend her, but he too was overwhelmed. The sheer ferocity of the attack suggested rage, not random violence. Whoever did this knew Nicole and wanted her dead. Detectives soon turned their attention to O.J. Simpson. At his home, they made discoveries that would set the stage for one of the most famous trials in American history. A bloody glove, found behind his guest house, matched another glove left near Nicole's body. Bloodstains were discovered inside O.J.'s white Ford Bronco. Footprints at the scene, left by rare Bruno Magli shoes, were later linked to him. And then there was the cut on O.J.'s hand. When questioned, he gave conflicting stories about how he injured it. First, he claimed he didn't know. Later, he said he cut it accidentally while rushing to pack. His evasiveness only raised suspicions. On June 17th, prosecutors filed murder charges against O.J. Simpson. The LAPD prepared for his arrest. But what was supposed to be a straightforward booking turned into one of the most surreal spectacles ever broadcast on television. Instead of turning himself in, O.J. disappeared. Hours later, news broke that he was in the back of a white Ford Bronco driven by his friend Al Cowlings. The slow speed chase that followed captivated the world. Helicopters hovered above freeways. Television networks cut into regular programming. Millions of Americans sat glued to their screens, watching live as police trailed the Bronco across Los Angeles. O.J., reportedly holding a gun to his head, threatened to end his life. Crowds gathered on overpasses, waving signs and cheering as the vehicle passed. After nearly 2 hours, the chase ended at Simpson's home. He surrendered peacefully, but inside the Bronco, police found disturbing items: a passport, a disguise, and nearly $9,000 in cash. To many, it looked like he had been preparing to flee forever. When the trial began in January 1995, it was immediately dubbed the trial of the century. Cameras were allowed inside the courtroom, and what might have been an ordinary legal proceeding became daily entertainment for millions. It exposed the fragile trust between communities and the justice system, and it revealed how television could transform a courtroom into a stage where truth and performance collided. Even now, decades later, the trial of the century remains burned into the collective memory, not just because of the verdict, but because of what it revealed about America, its divisions, its obsessions, its contradictions. And perhaps that's why the case continues to haunt us. Because beyond the headlines and the drama, it represents something deeper. The uneasy truth that justice in America is not always absolute. And sometimes the most famous trials leave us with more questions than answers. In the end, all that remains certain is that two people were murdered in the quiet of a June night. And though the courts have spoken, the search for justice, for clarity, for closure, remains unresolved. This is Case Unknown, where cold cases refuse to stay buried. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more haunting mysteries. And don't forget to like the video to support real crime stories that deserve to be heard. Drop your theories in the comments.